Welcome back to the I Am Power podcast, where stories become art and art becomes important reminders. Each week, we dive deep into the story of a special person who discovered their power against all odds. But this week, we're actually going to do something a little bit different. We actually just celebrated our 10th episode drop last week. So pop the cork, cue the celebration music, and let's celebrate. IMP, IMP, IMP. You're so amazing. Oh no, but seriously, I honestly could not do this without my incredible guest, and then of course, you guys, my amazing listeners. Let's just circle back to that Moana reference really quick, and I just want to say that it is a ritual in our house that we watch that movie at least 2 times a week. It is literally my favorite Disney movie, probably safe to say my most favorite animated movie of all time. And I'm going to tell you why. Aside from the fact that it is like the most like girl boss, like woman power, girl power movie that I feel like has been ever put out, maybe. If not, it's been a really long time. This girl literally saved the world. Like, she saved the world. And I think it's such a good message behind it because, first of all, there's not your like traditional cheesy like, and not that it's cheesy. I mean, everyone loves a good love story, but like, there was no love interest in this movie. It was literally just about Moana harnessing her power and like realizing that the power was inside of her the whole time. Like, and I love that. I think it's such a great message for children and especially little girls that like our power, like we have that already. Like, she didn't really have to go through a traumatic experience or, you know, have these bullies that were bullying her the whole time. And then she like realized that she was, you know, amazing. She already knew from the beginning, like her quest, she set out on her quest. Like it was brought to her attention that she was chosen to like, you know, to be this great, like, you know, warrior and like you know, to fix the problem. Like she was, you know, she accepted that she was chosen and like she was like, okay, let's do this. Like, and I'm not even gonna wait, I'm gonna go ahead and do it like right now. So to me, like I just feel like that's such a great message. I mean, and then of course, if you haven't seen the movie, like later on in the story, like she meets a demigod, which is like this big, powerful, like, you know, manly man, and like he has this magical like fish hook that the gods gave him. And you know, even when like Maui was the one that had the problems of like thinking that he wasn't good enough and that like he needed all of these extra things to like make him who he was. And like this girl literally helped this demigod realize that he too held the power inside of him, that like, you know, the worldly things or like, you know, all these other things like don't matter. Like what's inside is what counts. And that's like, that's what makes us who we are. And I just, I love that. And yeah, so let me just say, if you haven't seen Moana, like I highly recommend it. It's a great movie. It's not just for kids. I take, every time I watch it, I get something new from it. And I just think it's amazing. So yes, like go Moana. And so in celebration of our 10th episode that was released last week, I thought it would be kind of fitting to, you know, first, thank you guys. Thank everyone who supports the podcast, and thank you for listening and subscribing. But I wanted to get a little more personal with you guys. And like, I feel like it's, you know, it's long due. I need to introduce you guys to who I am. So I wanted to just kind of tell you a little bit about myself, and where this idea for this podcast came from, and like let you know like the meaning behind it and all that fancy jazz. So yes, my name is Jesca Jaymes. I am a visual artist and I'm based out of North Carolina. I have been creating art for the past like 7-8 years now, I think. I've kind of went a few different ways with it for a while. Actually started out in stage art. So if you think of like props and things like that, that is where I began my art adventures. I don't have this like incredible story of a child who created art the whole life, and they grew up and they either went to college and then they had something happen and then here they are, now they're creating an artist. Or I was always a creative person growing up. I always feel like I've had that innate creativity inside of me, whether it came out in, making clothes or making stuffed animals, or, whenever we had a school project and they were like, oh, you get to like make a presentation and like, make a physical project or like a book report or something like that. Like I was always super pumped about those things, but I never was an actual like illustrator or a painter growing up. I've always had those creative bones, I guess is what you could say. And then I kind of fell into the art scene as an adult. My oldest daughter would be a part of these events that required stage art. And that's probably the best way for me to explain to you what I mean when I say that. And it was created with paint and glitter and styrofoam. And it was these, huge pieces of art that helped represent the idea of like the outfit they were wearing. And so I created it for my daughter, and then her coach at the time was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that you did art. You were an illustrator, you were an artist. And I was like, oh, I didn't really ever consider myself that, but yeah. And she was like, you should do these on the side. And I was like, no way, no one's ever gonna like buy my art or buy these things that I'm doing. And she was like, just do it. And so it actually started out as a side hustle to pay for going to these expensive events that my daughter was a part of. And it just kind of like snowballed from there. And it got to the point to where I actually quit my full-time job to do these full time, and that was all I was doing. It was like super great, and I had a great time. But then I fell into a depression. I would say probably like 5 years after, that venture of my life. I went through a pretty traumatic experience in my life, and I fell into a really deep depression. So the business that I had created with these stage art, stage props, started to suffer because I just really didn't want to create anymore. I was like super down on myself, and then my mind was just, it wasn't clear. It was a bad time for me. So I kind of like messed up that business for a little while. And then I met someone who helped me get through that really rough time in my life. And like, he started to support me, and he helped me build that business back up. And so I was creating again. I was like, okay, if I'm coming back, I'm going to put my all into it. I'm going to be this totally different artist and have all these great new ideas. And then, so I was creating those again. And when you create art, if someone's telling you what they want you to create all the time, like, I'm just gonna give you an example, like someone wants a Mickey Mouse or something, you're like super stoked to create that and throw your own little twist on it, but you're still ultimately like doing what they want you to do. And as a creative person, I feel like you can do that for a really long time, and then you start to get burnt out and you lose that passion and that drive, and you kind of feel empty, I guess is the word that I would use for that. So I was feeling super empty for a while, and I just really didn't know. I still did it because it was a job, and it was how I paid my bills and things like that. And then when talking to he was my boyfriend at the time, we talked about environmental impacts of the materials that I was using. This was created with a lot of glitter and a lot of styrofoam, and if you guys don't know, those microplastics are just terrible for the environment. They don't go away. Like the joke of glitter, like it's like once it's in your house, or like once you get it on, you can't get it off. So like think of that on a massive like scale of like massive amounts of glitter. Like there's already a lot of glitter in the world, but then I was contributing to that immensely with what I was doing. So we made the decision to like, he would encourage me, like, why don't you try painting on canvas? Like, why don't you try drawing? And I was like, I don't know. It was like out of my comfort zone. And I'm very much a person that is in their comfort zone, and I don't like to step out of that very often. But that is where we do our most growing, is when we step out of our comfort zones and we try those things that scare us. So he bought me all these canvases, he was buying me these paints, and he kept like poking at me for a while, like, why don't you try this, why don't you try that? Well, then we had this crazy event where I actually drove to Tennessee, and I had my suitcase or toolbox full of glitter with me. I was delivering these pieces of art to an event, and my toolbox had fell over on the way back, and I didn't realize it. So when we get home and we're like unloading like the extra stuff, and I'm getting my toolbox out, like it had fallen over, and like 10 plus pounds of glitter like in the bed of the truck. And then to make matters worse, glue had fell out as well. And so all of that glitter just literally, like, it was permanently, it's still there. It's on the bed of his truck. Like, again, it doesn't go away. But, and my initial thought at the time was, oh, well, I'll sweep it off the bed, and then we'll get the bulk up, and then I'll just water the rest of it down the driveway and like get rid of it so it's not in the driveway. And he literally almost had a heart attack when I said that. And, again, this is like baby environmentalist Jesca, like the thought never crossed my mind. And he's like, do you realize that goes into the streams, and then the fish eat it, and then like, causes issues with that. And of course, so I was like, oh my gosh, like I never even thought about that. So long story short, so that's when I had made the decision to like, okay, well, let me just try this painting thing. Let me just do it. I think maybe subconsciously part of me was like, maybe if I just try it, he'll leave me alone about it. But I actually wound up really falling in love with the process of creating paintings and creating art on a smaller scale. And just being in my own little space, like it's not that messy. I'm not having to like cut foam with like hot knives and breathing in all that mess and like glitter everywhere. Like it was very nice to hone in on that. And so I would say probably within that year that I made that decision to take a step back from creating the stage art, I went full-time with just creating paintings, just being an acrylic artist, a visual acrylic artist. And it was scary because I stepped away from what was comfortable to me, like what I had been doing for years, and I knew I had clients and I knew I could make money doing this. But I just, for the environmental reasons, it wasn't there for me. Like I know deep down inside the passion had already left me. My heart wasn't in it anymore. I dreaded doing them, and I don't ever want to like dread creating art. Like to me, creating art is just such a blessing and like such an amazing thing. And then I didn't want that feeling anymore. So I started to do paintings, and then I was going back into creating custom paintings. So head portraits of clients, animals, memorial portraits, things like that. Like here and there, I was just testing out the waters to see like what it was that I really wanted to do, like what my style was, and then just basically like what I wanted out in the world. And I just played with it for probably like another year, just really not knowing where I was going with it. And then I got into this like really weird, funky place with the paintings. So like where I was with the stage art, I was finding myself in that same space again, not knowing what it was that I wanted to do. And I envied these artists that were just so creative and like thinking out of the box and like making these arts that was just saying something and it had a meaning. And I felt like I was missing that in my own art journey. And I just was at a point where like I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I didn't know what I wanted to paint anymore. But I knew I wanted something that was impactful and that people would remember me for. Me and my husband, we joke about all the time. Like my sole purpose in life is to be a better person. So I wanted my art to mean something. I wanted to mean something. I didn't just want to be this like consumer that just woke up every day and just, did the same thing every day and like just feeling empty inside at the end of the day, at the end of the week, in a work week, whatever. Like I felt like that hole was back again that I thought I had filled. And I'm like, okay, how do I fix this? Like, and that was one of my biggest things that I think I said all the time was like, I want to have art that means something. But how do you create art that means something? That's where it starts to get like really deep, because I feel like as artists, we get that free ticket to, you know, say what's on our mind more, and, you know, talk about, you know, political things, or, you know, things that, you know, get other people thinking, and hot topics. Like, I feel like as an artist, we get that free ticket to do that, and like people, you know, we get a little bit more grace for it because they're an artist, so that, you know, it's our job to like tell the world like what we think, and, you know, talk about things that are important to us. So I knew that was there. Like, that's been there. Like, how do I do that? How do I tell the world, you know, how I feel in art form? So, you know, I was in that really funky place for a long time, and I just, you know, I thought to myself, well, maybe I should just stop taking commissions. Maybe I should stop doing commission work, because, you know, I do enjoy painting these things for these people, these dogs and these family portraits. Like, they're amazing. Like, it's so much fun to, you know, take that image and then put my art interpretation on it. But I just felt like I didn't know what my art voice was. I didn't know, like, I just needed something. I knew something was missing, and I needed something. So one day, you know, and then before COVID hit, I knew that I wanted to have a podcast. Like, I wanted to talk to people, and, you know, I just needed that like communication, and, you know, that was always like a passion of mine. So right before COVID hit, I actually bought all the equipment and was like trying to decide like what I want to do with this podcast. Well, then someone asked me, like, what is it, Jesca, that, like, who is Jesca? And what is it that you want to say? Like, who are you? Like, what drives you? What makes you happy? Like, what inspires you? And my answer to that was inspiring other people. Like, I want to inspire other people through my art, but then just as a person, like, I just want to be an inspirational person. I want to be remembered for that girl that made a difference in the world. You know, even if it's a small, tiny footprint, thumbprint, like, I wanted to be that person that just was memorable for good reasons. And they said, well, that's your ticket. Like, that's your ticket. You want to do a podcast. You still want to create your art. Like, that's your ticket. Like, find these stories of these incredible people who found their power through tough situations. So whether it be like injury, trauma, self-sabotage, like that's your thing. Like, find these people that have a story to tell that other people need to hear, and then use that as your inspiration to create your art. And I was like, oh, like my head, like, I was instantly like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, how did I not even think about this? But then this like inner critic comes and like rears its ugly head. You know, your inner demons, or whatever you want to call them. Like, my inner critic's name is Jennifer. So when she likes to pop up and say, wait a minute, Jesca, like, are you sure you want to do this podcast? Like, you don't like talking. You like to talk, but it makes you nervous. You definitely are terrified to talk to people you don't know. And then you also don't like to be on camera. So what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking? Yeah, so that popped up, of course, but I had to step out of my comfort zone. I knew I wanted to grow as a person, and I knew I wanted to grow as an artist. And so I had to step out of that comfort zone. So, I mean, I think my first interview with Courtney, and if you guys haven't seen her episode yet, like, I highly recommend it. She's an amazing human. I mean, I was sweating bullets the entire time. It was like the most nerve-wracking thing I think I've ever done in my life. But I mean, that's what makes it so amazing, is that these people that I'm talking to are just so genuine and so kind, and then just have an amazing story to tell. And I think when you have an amazing story to tell, it's easy to, you know, everything else gets blocked out, and you're just in that moment with that person, and you're listening to the things that they've been through and the things that they've done with their life, and like how they've just, made like Phoenix rising from the fire, like just amazing. And all of that other stuff just goes away. It just goes away. And, this podcast has literally filled my soul. Every week when I get to be with you guys and I get to share these amazing stories, like I want to jump out of my skin. It just makes me so excited. And I feel like here I am as an artist, making a difference in the world. But also like in that, like it's you guys, like it's you, the listeners that listen to these stories and go and, apply those to your everyday lives, and, and hopefully, be there for someone else that's going through something, or if you went through something, like you relate to it and you see that it's possible to get through these tough situations. And then of course my guests, who are just so incredible for, telling someone that they don't know, their story of like how they become the person that they are today. And it's just, I feel like I could just explode sometimes. It's crazy. But yeah, so like that's where it's landed me here. I am here with you guys, making a difference. Hopefully, in your ears every week, and just giving you like inspiration and all of the good feelings that you deserve to have. And then of course, making you realize too that you own the power inside, that it's there. Like we just have to use it, and we have to embody it, and realize that it's not a bad thing to feel powerful, or to, be empowered, or to have power. That like, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing feeling. And I feel like through this podcast and through speaking with these amazing people, that I have found my power as a person and as an artist. And I honestly cannot wait to see what the future holds for this, this community. It gives me everything that I thought that I already had. I didn't even realize I was missing. I didn't realize that I was missing it sometimes. But then sometimes, I know that sounds kind of contradictory. Like, I didn't know I was missing it, but there was a hole there. But here we are. We're making a difference, and we're doing great things. So yeah, thank you guys again. Celebrate with me one more time. 10th episode just dropped last week. It was a great one. I highly recommend that you guys check out every episode thus far. Every person has a unique and inspiring story that the world needs to hear. Put it on in the background when you're driving to work. Start your day with it. End your day with it. Cleaning your house, like, whatever it is that you do where you would normally have music on in the background. Like, if you switch that up to inspirational stories and empowering messages, I just know that you're gonna see such a difference in your life. And then together we can all just be amazing people and powerful people. And it's a great feeling. So, guys, if you want to check out the art as well that goes along with all of the stories that was created, you can find those on my Instagram at I Am Power Club, or you can check it out on the web, JescaJaymes.com. That's JescaJaymes.com. You can take a look at those if you feel connected with it. I encourage you to purchase your own art to remind you to be great. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss next week's episode of I Am Power. See you then.